TKO Boxing with Sherry Abbasi, and this evening I'm joined by a man of many talents, former WBO world champion turned analyst and commentator. Is that fair to say, Barry?
Well, I'll take that. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Amongst many other things, I'm sure. Barry, thank you once again for giving me a bit of time tonight. And I sort of wanted to start with a question that I don't want to come across too deep, but boxing, the word boxing, what does that mean to you?
Life. I sound like what's his name? I don't know. Usyk boxing. Oh, Canelo, isn't it? Boxing is life. Canelo.
No boxing, no life.
It's all I've ever known. I started from a young age at 10, 9 when I started going to a gym, but 10 when I started competing, and I've had some breaks in between, to be fair. But yeah, it's everything. It's the only thing I know. It's the only thing I know. I don't know it. So yeah, boxing is everything. It's like most people will tell you in boxing. Most people who boxed, it's your first, and this is why it's hard to retire, because it's your first true love. Before girls and anything else, boxing is the thing you fell in love with first, and that's why it's the bitterness sometimes creeps in with other people because they can't let go. Like a toxic relationship. That's what it is. As boxing is a toxic relationship, actually, but it's you love it, but it doesn't always treat you well, and but you still stick with it because you have good times, and the good times are better than any others, and that's pretty much what it is. Yeah. So boxing is life.
Barry, you know what you just said there? It's quite scary, actually, because one of my friends, I did mention that I was going to be speaking to you tonight, and he said, I love Barry Jones, and he reminds me as an analyst, because you get quite technical with it all. He said, as an analyst, he always thinks of you and Paulie Malignaggi in the same sort of bracket, because you can break it down because of the experience of actually being in the ring, and then you're very good with your words. Paulie Malignaggi once had a piece that he wrote called, I forgot the name of it, Dear Boxing. And he said pretty much what you said word for word. It's like a toxic relationship, and it's like a bad girlfriend that you always keep going back to for more.
Yeah, it's always it's always a compliment being compared to Paul Malignaggi. Of course, he's fantastic at his job. But also, yeah, it's different for different fighters. Of course, some can walk away. But all these fighters say they never loved the sport. They lie. I would just say that. But you can have breaks. I had a 10-year break from boxing when I retired. I didn't go. The only show I would watch it on the TV like a normal fan. I know back then you would only see 2 or 3 fights on the TV on Sky TV. It wasn't like it is now, and I wouldn't. I stopped by. I wouldn't buy the boxing news. I wasn't up to date with everything. I would just watch it and like a casual fan, to be fair. And I'd only go to Joe Kazagi fights because he was my friend at the time. So I'd only ever go to his. I moved away from Cardiff. I moved to London and then Twickenham for a while, and so yeah, I'd only go home for that pretty much. So but as soon as there was an opportunity to get back in, I couldn't wait. Because it's a weird thing, boxing, because it doesn't define you as a person, but you feel like it's your identity. Like I've been Barry the boxer from 14 years of age. Even though I boxed at 10, but from 14 when I was getting good, there's Barry the boxer. Not saying I was any good. No, I was quite good, to be fair. But there were people who saying, "Oh, he's good." They just going, "I was Barry the boxer." That's what you were known as, and so it's been your identity for so long, like entwined with who you are as a person. Everything revolves around that. So your whole life and the conversations, even now, where I talk to, pretty much within. Once they know I'm a boxer or I'm involved in boxing or anything about that, then that becomes the top topic to talk about. So yeah, it's hard to escape, but you don't want to escape it either. That's the funny thing. Well, look at people who've made millions, like Carl Froch and George Groves. They don't need money. They can sit and do whatever they want to do, and all they're doing is coming back and stealing my work. Well, a little bit. No, but because they want to be involved in the sport, and that's and doing what we do, the media side, whether you're commentating or a pundit or whatever it is, it takes you closest to what you were doing. it takes you closest to the thing that you can't do anymore. I would say that. Yeah.
And the benefits of not getting punched in the face.
Yeah, but I would if I could. I mean, it's a funny thing, but
Yeah.
you sort of miss that as well. You didn't enjoy it, but you sort of miss it. I don't know why, but you miss everything. When you retire, you forget about the bad stuff. Making weight, fights being put, not getting no fight dates, fights being pulled, injuries, having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go for a run. You forget about them. You just remember the good times. You remember the tough training, but some of the training is fun. You look back at it fondly now because you wish you could do some of that training stuff. My full exercise now, my full down the gym, whatever I do, would be a warmer back when I was in my 20s. You know what I mean? So, it's a funny. I suppose it's like that for anyone who loves what they do. I would imagine, that like we tend to think we're unique as boxers, but we're not. Any sport, as sportsmen, we think we're unique, and the reason why we think we're unique, I think, and the reason why maybe it stands out a bit more is the highs are quite higher than anything else, and the lows are very low, and that's why when boxers retire, people need to just keep around them for a little while until they find their feet, because the lows then when you retire are very difficult. Without going down a gloomy rabbit hole here, but yeah.
No, we've seen that, like you just said, we've seen that with a lot of fighters who have struggled afterwards. And like you said,
we all struggle. Sorry, we all struggle, and I don't drink, and like I haven't drunk since I was 17, and that probably saved me, to be honest, because I think the frustration. I had my last fight at 26. No, I was 25. Sorry, I retired at 26. My last fight was 25. So I was young, and that was hard to take, and to not do it. From a young. No, I was still young enough to do it. God, I never got my man strength until I was 29. I've been retired for 4 years. So it's and I almost came back in like about 32. I was training, I was looking good, and I had a bit of power now with the things I lacked, I never had before. That I had that vision because didn't rush stuff, because I had that exuberance of youth that left me, but I was still fit and stronger, and my analytical brain was working faster than it used to, and I was a better fighter, I felt. But and I was going to apply for my license. I was sparring pros, at the time, and it's good pros, European champions, and I would say not holding my own. I was putting them in their place. That's the truth of it. I'm honest. I'm honest about it. I never make out I was a superstar boxer. I was lucky in lots of ways, but I think I was a better fighter than I was when I was supposedly at my peak. But the reality is I probably wasn't. I just felt that way. But to be fair, Robert Smith saved me from making a comeback. Did me a favour, I think, in the long run. I phoned up and said I want to apply for my license again, and he said no problem, that's fine. I'll send you out the forms to fill in. You've got to have all the medicals. You pass all the medicals, and I took all the medicals as well. And then he just said, "But are you sure?" That's all he said. Are you sure? And that sat with me for and I went to bed for 2 nights, and I couldn't get comfortable with it, and I couldn't understand why he was talking. First of all, I thought, "What the fuck does he think he is?" That's what I thought. First of all, but he was right. And why was I turning pro for? Why was I having another comeback for? What for? The chance of me being a world champion again were almost impossible. God, the chance of me winning a world title in the first place that was never going to happen really in reality, but it did. So me doing that again, what am I going to do? And boxing at British level, which is a great achievement, because I've been a world champion, it's never going to be enough. And was it the money? Maybe, but it was. I didn't know what to do with my life. That was what it was. I didn't know what to do. I was running pubs or a nightclub and a strip club, but I didn't want to do it. I didn't know what to do, and that's all I knew. So, you just go back to what you know best. But Robert Smith, and I'm indebted to him for that, ironically, and he gets a lot of stick, but he was right. He was right. Like little things like that. That saved me from more heartache, more frustration, bigger depression. I never had depression. Feel sorry for myself. Depression is a word to be overused, unfortunately. Feeling sorry for myself and going down, maybe making bad choices and potentially getting hurt. So yeah, Robert Smith, not so good that people make out he is.
So you, so you were, was it that feeling of wanting to belong? Because boxing was what you'd have always sort of done, and the thing that you loved, and the highest of highs, lowest of lows, that feeling. I think yesterday I spoke to Andy Clark, and he was saying it's like a drug that always brings you back and you can't really let go. Would you say it was something like that that was sort of trying to get you back at the age of 32?
Yeah, I think so. But what am I without boxing? That's what it is. I'd had a long time out, so that at that point, what was I? My last fight, 25, 26, I said that's enough. So I'm what's that? I'm 6 years out of the sport, but I'm training. So I didn't train for like 4 years. By the way, I couldn't put no weight on either. By the way, I was 10 stone until I was like 32. Most people I boxed weren't 10 stone on the day of the fight. but yeah, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was lost, but I knew boxing. I knew what to do there. And even now I know what to do it now, even at this age. That's what I know. So I didn't think of anything else. I didn't think about going into, and I wasn't a huge name. So walking into a job in commentary, like most boxers retire if they have a half a decent name or a big name, and they retire and they go into commentary or punditry first of all, and then they get into being commentary if they got a knack for that, and that's what they do. But I had a different path, a longer winding path, because I wasn't a huge name, no one was going to employ me anyway, and I wasn't looking to be that what I'm doing now. But yeah, so I just got on with my life. I moved away from car. I moved away from my city where I grew up and the city I love, and tried to reinvent myself as a gangster. No, I'm joking. No, I tried to be. No, I wanted to get away from everyone. I didn't want to I didn't want people looking at me feeling sorry for me, and oh, what happened to you? You used to be a world champion, all that rubbish. I couldn't cope with that. I'm not thick. I'm very thin skinned. Things affect me, so, and I don't react in a great way when I'm offended, and I'm not big enough to act in the way that I would act. So I get beat up a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, but that's how it is. So yeah, I moved away. But listen, but boxing's been good to me as well as bad. It's I can't. I moan about it, but constantly, as we all do, because it's one of those sports. Even what you do, it's frustrating, and it really is. But God, I love it when it's good. When it's good. There's nothing like it. Like
100%.
Nothing like it. And I would imagine it's like that for anyone in any sport that they love. When it's good, it's like Andy said, it's like a drug. You just can't get enough of it.
Absolutely. We've touched on the back end of your career. What is your earliest boxing memory?
Earliest boxing memory. I remember I remember I was about 9-ish, and I followed my brother down the gym. I had an older brother who boxed. He was pretty good, British schoolboy champion, boxed for Wales as a senior. I just followed him down, I think, and that was it. And I didn't instantly fall in love with it. Basketball was my favourite sport. Yeah, I know. I'm short. I wouldn't have been very good. I understand all that, but I loved it. I loved it. They used to show on, I think it was BBC Two, then Channel 4 in the end, because Channel 4 was quite new. There was no Channel 4 when I was a kid. By the way, I'm that old. But yeah, it was. They used to show the finals, just the last, the series of 7, if it went that long, and it was quite often the Lakers, and I think for 3 years, not consecutively, but 3 years they played the Celtics, so it was a big rivalry, and I fell in love with that. The Lakers were everything. Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was at the end of his career. They were just a show team. They were fantastic. And Magic Johnson was just a joy to watch, And I fell in love with that. And then obviously Jordan in the 90s was throwing, and Channel 4 was showing it as well. So, and I played it at a decent level, county level and stuff, and I loved it because you're always involved. Like, I'm hyperactive, so basketball, even when you haven't got the ball, you're always involved. You're always back and forth. And you don't sub off as quick as they do in the professional game because it's it's shorter and it's your kids. But I love that, and that's why I love boxing, because you're always involved. I couldn't play other sports so much because I was quite fast. So in rugby, they put me on the wing. Rugby in Wales, by the way, is everything. So it's rugby's god in my country. So if you're fast, they put you on the wing. Well, on the wing when you're a kid, you don't get the ball. No one passes you. So it's just a waste. It was boring. I'd play scrum half sometimes because I was small, but there was better players than me for that. So yeah. And then so speed, being quite fast worked against me. Same with football. I was fast. They put me on the wing. Right midfield, left midfield, which doesn't sound bad, but when you're 12 and 13, 14 even, everything's through the middle, isn't it? You know what I mean? So you don't get the ball again. And it was just one of those. So, but boxing, you're always involved. And I was probably some sort of ADHD. There was no such thing back then, but that's probably what I was. Even though I'm like pretty much 50 more or less, and I'm still fidgety. I am. So that like boxing, I didn't like getting punched. I wasn't happy with all that. But the training, I loved the training more than the fighting for a long time. The training was everything. It was just brilliant for me. Like I would literally, I got to a point when I was like 14 that when I was boxing, I was good. I knew I was good. I was boxing for Wales. I was a Welsh champion. I'd been the British schoolboy final, so I knew I was a good fighter. But I would train on the gym, and then circuit training was quite a new thing back then. This is like the very late 80s. And I'd go straight from the boxing gym, straight on the circuit training with sweat gear on. Now, sweat gear back then wasn't, it was working overalls, outdoor stuff, like waterproof stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't proper sweat gear like it is nowadays, sweatsuits. It was waterproof stuff you'd wear for work. I'd have a tracksuit and a t-shirt and a black bag, and I'd wear that. And I'd train, and I put another one back on, another black bag back on, and I'd go down to circuit training with a hood on and all that, and do an hour down there. I mean, I'd be sick. I loved it. At 17, I was the fittest person I knew. I mean, I was so fit. I've never been as fit as I was when I was 17. Put that way, fit than I was ever as a pro. I mean, I could do anything. I was so fit, like I could run miles and just just switch off and just keep going. I used to run. I'd phone my dad once. I had to go to phone boxes back then. He had to pick me up. I'd run outside the Cardiff. I'd run in a straight line on my Walkman. I know I'm diverting. I'm sorry, but
no, that's fine, Karen. Go ahead.
I had a Walkman. It was a cassette.
Yeah,
so
you
had to you couldn't run properly because it would shake. So and you wouldn't get the music properly. But so I had to hold it still. But I put that on. The headphones were rubbish as well. They'd all fall
big
down.
ones.
Yeah, really, really bad. And but they were brilliant, And we had one cassette. And it was Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. So I had that. I had that, and that's all I had. We didn't have no money. And I just listened to that about 10 times. I just run outside. I just run out of Cardiff. I was in Newport. I had to phone my dad and say, "Listen, come and pick me up." I'm lost.
So, if you hadn't got into boxing and chosen that as your professional career at that point in your life, what do you think you would have been?
Electrician.
Were you studying at the time, or were you doing any courses? Or
I was an apprentice electrician. And then I was electricians. I was working I wasn't qualified, but I was working as an electrician when I won the world title, actually. So yeah, I mean, the week before I won the world title, I was rewiring houses a week before I won the world title. I mean, I worked up until the week before I boxed the world title. Okay. I didn't need to. I probably didn't need to work. Maybe about 2 fights before, I probably could have given up work, but I didn't know why. I didn't understand why. What am I going to do? Because I run in the morning and I trained in the evening. I did that all my life. And I did a bit more training because it was longer rounds and stuff. But I tried that 3 times a day training, but like after I won the world title, and I couldn't do it. Because my body was so used to doing the way I'd worked, I had the rest time wasn't enough for me. It was killing me. So yeah, so I worked, and I didn't. Otherwise I would have been bored out my skull. I had to work, and it didn't seem a chore for me. But when I won the world title, I gave up my job straight away. That was the first thing I said on the interview. I looked in the camera. I said I worked for a fellow called Steve Copeland. Sorry, at the time, not Teddy Usher was my first boss. Steve Copeland, and I looked at the camera. I said, Steve, I'm not coming to work on Monday. See you later. Yeah. So I would have been an electrician. My dad was. He was an electrician for the council. Then he was a contracts manager later. And my uncle was an electrician. And my grandfather was an electrician's mate. And So yeah, it would have been that. My brother's a painter and decorator, so it would have been a trade. But when I grew up, it was education wasn't at the forefront of people's minds. It was about not getting into trouble and learn a trade. I mean, you talk 80s and 90s where universities, there weren't too many working class kids, or certainly from areas that I grew up, which are maybe a little bit below that. No poverty stricken, beautiful place. But I grew up where I grew up. It's lovely and the people are fantastic, but poverty stricken coastal states. So there weren't many that went to universities. Now it's different. Now everyone gets a chance to go, and it's fantastic. But back then, you never thought about it. You just get a trade, get a job, get a trade, and so that was it. Before I left school, the guy who lived in the back of my house, he popped his head over the fence and went, "Have you finished school?" I went, "Not yet, a couple of weeks." He went, "Do you want a job?" I said, "Yeah." And that was it. And I walked into the house and I said to my mum, "I got a job." She went, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm working for the fellow over the back." Then I said, "What does he do?" I didn't know what he did. Just took the job.
What was it, electrics?
It was like, yeah, electric. It's just by chance it was electric, but I didn't know.
Okay.
He could have been a bricklayer. I just said, "You want a job?" I said, "Yeah." And so funny, because my boxing career is like that. I got a world title. My world title opportunity was Ernie Fossey used to be the matchmaker for Frank Warren back then. He phoned me up on a Thursday night and said, "Do you want to box for a world title?" And I won't tell you what, we had a little bit of a discussion because I didn't believe him, and we had a little bit of falling out. Actually, okay, I said, I went, "Oh, fuck off," and put the phone down. I thought he was taking the piss out of me.
Yeah.
So he phoned me back up, and this wasn't a man to be messed with, Ernie Fossey. He was sharp with his tongue, and he rang me back up and shouted at me and told me off. And I said sorry very quickly. And then he said, you want to fight for a world title?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, lovely." Put the phone down, phoned my dad up, and then said, "I got a world title shot." And he said, "Shut up." I said, "Oh, seriously?" And he said, "When?" I said, "I don't know, Dad." He said, "Who are you fighting?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "What weight?" Because I was boxing at super featherweight. I'd won an intercontinental title at super featherweight, but I was a featherweight. And I was actually a super bantamweight, really. I was going to go down to super bantamweight. But when I turned pro, there was no super bantamweights in the country. It was like 7 or 8 of them, I think, or maybe 12 or something. And I wanted to be British featherweight champion, like Howard Winston, my hero. So I turned pro as featherweight rather than super bantamweight. But I walked around 9 stone 5, and I weighed in fights 9'2" all the time. I mean, my title fights are super featherweight, but I weighed in 9 stone 2. I was too small for the weight. That's no excuse to what I know what I did and the loss I had. He beat me whatever the weight is, but I was just too small for the weight, truthfully. So when I got the world title opportunity, I didn't know what weight it was. I didn't know how much it was. I didn't know when it was or who it was or where it was. I just said yes. Like my job as an apprentice electrician. I just said yes. Sometimes just saying yes. Ever seen that film, Yes Day? With the parents, with the kids, so the kids say they say to their kids, we'll just say yes to everything you say. And that's sort of my career, actually. Just say yes, like yeah.
Yeah, but it's paid off, hasn't it?
Yeah, luckily, yeah.
Yeah, it's paid off.
The thing is, though, back then, but I gotta say, back then there was no there was no internet. There was an internet, but it wasn't really widely used, and so. So I got the Boxing News and the Boxing Monthly. The Boxing Monthly was a relatively new magazine as well at the time. So I'm looking at the ratings. So I'm going, okay, it's got to be super featherweight, I guess. So I think I'm like number 10 in the IBF ratings. I just beat a guy called Afi Dejelti who went on to win the European title in the end after I beat him. Good fighter he was. But I think he had like a top 11 rating. So I think I'm top 10 in the IBF. So I'm looking at their rankings first of all. And I'm going, well, the champion on the top of the thing is Arturo Gatti. But my dad's going, he's moved up. Yeah, he's moved up. I go, I hope not. I live the box of Arturo Gatti. Listen, Arturo Gatti batters me. But I don't care. I'm getting to fight Arturo Gatti. That's
share the ring with him. Yeah.
No, I'm going to beat him. But I think you think any fight. I tell you, once you've got a fight dialed in, you got to lie to yourself and make that lie a reality. Otherwise, you wouldn't get in the ring with anybody. So I'll beat him. By the time it comes to fight now, I can't see I'm going to lose. And he'll try and knock me out, but I got a good chin and I've been on the floor in my life, so he's going to knock me out. That's what I would keep thinking. I got fast hands and fast feet, and I'm light and I'm small for the weight, but that means I got loads of energy, all that crap. in reality, he wipes the floor with me. That's the truth. So in 8 rounds, I reckon I go. So I tough it out for 8 rounds probably, like I did with Freitas. And then, but then my dad said, "No, he's moved up. I'm sure he's moved up." So the number 1 contender was Azuma Nelson. So I'm like, oh, even better. I thought Azuma Nelson, he's like a legend, like arguably the greatest African boxer to ever live. But Azuma Nelson's like 39 now. Well, back then, 39 at my weight was like being 70. So I'm like, he's 39, if he has his worst night of his entire life, if he breaks his arm and his leg falls off and he gotta get in the ring with and he's got fucking whatever, someone's cut his eyebrows off, I don't care. Literally they tie his arms behind his back and they chop his tongue off, anything, and then I get in there and I have the best night of my life. I might just sneak out the points win. And no one remember I beat a really old, like one arm, one leg Azuma Nelson. I just beat a living legend. That's all that matters on the paper. I beat Azuma Nelson. Anyway, it wasn't that. I ended up boxing for the WBO title, and I wasn't in their rankings at all. Against a Colombian who was a lightweight who come down. So yeah, so it was. That's how it works. But that's the absurdity of boxing. You've got a featherweight who's not ranked in that organization, but who's ranked in another organization, boxing a lightweight who's in the top 10 in lightweights, but not in nowhere near nothing in the super featherweights, and we meet for a vacant title.
And then when you won the title, when they announced and the new world champion, what do you remember in that moment? The feeling? Can you describe the feeling of euphoria? Can you put it into words for the fans?
It's a weird feeling because it's like your dream. It's your lifetime ambition. So like whatever your ambition in life is to be, it comes in. So you just that's what you almost. It's like when people say about their weddings, they can't take it in, it's too much. It's like that. You just can't take it in. I dare to say it's so big, it's almost an anticlimax. Because it's too much. You can't take it all in. Like that night, I was walking around that night and I was looking for I'm a bit of a, I wouldn't say I'm a loner, but I don't really cuddle up with people too. I have lots of mates back home, but I mean, I'm happy to be in my own space. So I always leave the club early. I'm never the last person to leave a nightclub. I arrive and leave on my own quite often in places. You'll see me at press conferences or weigh-ins or fights, and I stand in the corner out the way. I speak to people I know, but I stay out the way. I'm not like in the middle going, look at me. It's just not. I'm not that way. I'll talk to anyone but I mean, I don't stand on a box going, here I am, sort of thing. So yeah, it was too much. And I ended up stood in the hotel, massive hotel it was, down in the Docklands. And I was sat in the hotel stairs in the hotel, talking to Winky Wright. Yeah, he won that. He beat Adrian Dodson. Beat him up badly, actually. And then we were just sat on the stairs talking for about like an hour. And everyone was looking for me. Where's Paddy? Where's Paddy? My father's like, my grandfather was still alive then. Then my brother, they all died not like they won it. And having a great time. And then we battered the hotel. Like, it was all full of like my council estate. Like we did a couple of coaches down, and they just took over the hotel, bless them. And I think they'd only booked about 10 rooms, like people. But there was about like 200 people all sleeping in 10 rooms. It's ludicrous, like. And they're up all night taking drugs. That's the truth to me. Like I didn't take the drugs, but they're up all night taking drugs and drinking and all sorts. It's just ridiculous. But good night actually. But yeah, so it was too much to take. I don't remember. I had my belt, and it was on my bed. And I woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning. I must have gone to sleep at 2, 3. I woke up at 5 or 6, whatever it was. And I couldn't open my eyes. I just remember looking for the belt with my foot. I was reaching out for my foot like this, looking for the belt. I didn't believe it was real. Like, I thought, like, this can't be real. Like, I just won a world title. This is not right. Yeah. And so the next day was even better. But that was like, I was in my room on my own for like an hour. And then just sat there with the belt going, this is what the fuck is this? Like, what have I done? Oops. What have I done? I'm 23, by the way. I'm 23. It's too early. Like, I wasn't ready for it. And like, I thought my life has changed forever. Like, this is it now. I'm off. Like, I'm flying. This has come. I never thought it would come, but no, when I dreamed about it coming, I was 27 or something. You know what I mean? I'd won a British title, European title. I worked my way up the ladder like you should. But, it's ironically, I beat the British, Commonwealth and European champion, but never boxed for those titles, which was a bit disappointing. But, so I did a good apprenticeship all the way up. So I knew I was doing the building blocks and having the right steps. But then it's a big step up, isn't there? And then, yes, that was it. It was just like, my life's going to change forever. And it did. But not in the way I thought, unfortunately. It was a little bit of a turnaround, a little bit of a twist of fate, unfortunately, that was.
That was obviously becoming a world champion. I'm going to assume that was the highest moment of your boxing career. Would you say?
Oh yeah. One of the highlights of my life.
Absolutely.
Take away your kids, and I can't think of a better thing that I've achieved. There's not a better thing I've achieved. That I got 3 children, and each time they were born, that you just like the elation's too much to cope with, and that comes a close fourth, I guess.
I want to contrast that with either something that happened in your career or a key moment that you can remember, whether that's a shot that landed, a struggle to make weight, anything that you can remember, the most negative part of your boxing career, or the moment that you think, oh, I hated that moment.
Oh yeah, it's easy. So I win the world title December the 19th, 1997. I'm due to defend in Paris in February. That gets put back to April. But then in March, I'm due my annual brain scan, and I have a scan. It's changed my scan, and I don't box for 2 years, and I get stripped of the title. So that was the lowest point of my life, I would say, probably, because I got everything. I got a contract for 5 defenses, which is quite lucrative. It's all back end loaded. That's what they used to do back then, and I got my first defense is my hardest defense against Julian Lawsey in Paris. But stylistically, it was a fight I had a chance in, I thought. And ironically, when he moved up to lightweight and won a world title, he lost to a boxer who was not too dissimilar to me. So I knew my style was going to be hard for him. He was an aggressive, come forward fighter, but fought with his face. Well, that's and hope that you would break. But I wasn't a breakable fighter. I wasn't tough. I couldn't hit very hard. Obviously, my record would suggest that. But I was tough. I could take a shot, and I even though I always moved and danced around and run, maybe you could call it, I was never bullied. People think if you can't punch, you can't take a punch, and that's bollocks. Like I never want to throw my entire life until my last fight, and I was against arguably the biggest puncher that my weight division's ever seen. So, and even then he couldn't keep me down. He battered me, he battered me so much. I should have stayed down, but but I had got up. He couldn't knock me out, and he was just too good for me. But yeah, so that was hard. Then all of a sudden I have no prospects. I have no world title. I don't get to walk in the ring as a champion. I've never done that. Never walked in. I've never been announced as, and in the blue corner, the reigning super featherweight champion of the world. I've never had that. Never had that. It was taken away from me. And ironically, it turned out for no reason at all. To be fair, it's a long story, and it'll take hours to go into. But I had to change my scan. It was a new MRI scans were new at the time, and with Michael Watson suing the boxing board and Spencer Oliver collapsing in the ring in his fight. So I had my problem with my scan in March, and then it takes a while. The process takes a while, but by May, Spencer's defending his European title. Spencer Oliver, who's going on, he wins that fight. He's boxing for the world title next, and by the way, Spencer's a walking miracle. Spencer Oliver, by the way, he's still alive. It's unbelievable, and functioning at a high level, which he does, is just phenomenal. Because what happened to him, he has no right to be alive. Like it's brilliant. It's a miracle. It's fantastic. But what happened to him was horrific. And he was flying, by the way. He was my sort of age, and he was going to win a world title that year. He had a tough weight, but he was good enough to win it. So but that happened, and that was pressure on the board. It was really unfortunate. It was more unfortunate for him, but really unfortunate for me as well, because at the time there was too much pressure on the board to give anyone with any suspect issue a license. Then I went back to a month or two later with a barrister and a medical. And a brain surgeon and some medical proof and research, and I got my license back within 25 minutes. But by that point, it's been 18 months since I've had my fight. So then the WBO put me as #1 contender, mandatory challenger. But then in those 2 years I'm out, my weight division went from being relatively weak, I would say, if you talk about, times gone by, to be in the best division in the world at the time. Well, by the time I got my license back, by the time I boxed Freitas, I got Acelino Freitas is the world champion. He's 23-0 with 23 knockouts. So at the time, he's pound for pound the biggest puncher in the world. Pound for pound at the time. The WBA champion is Yoel Casamayor, Olympic gold medalist. Brilliant. Southpaw. Nasty. The IBF champion is Diego Corrales. That's a 6-foot super featherweight who could punch. God rest his soul. He had an accident, a motorcycle accident, and died a few years back. And the new WBC champion, the brand new champion, was a fellow called Pretty Boy, Floyd Mayweather, before he became Moneyfoot. So that's the best division in the world at that time, in any weight class. Like, I'm not beating any of those. I mean, actually, the guy who beat me was probably the weakest link at that time, I would say. For me, stylistically, I had the biggest chance against Freitas because he was crude with some of his work. Corrales is 6 foot. I need to be able to box you. I can't get nowhere near him, and he's going to knock me out. He's going to drop me until I get stopped. Casamayor is a southpaw, Cuban. I'm not going to outbox him. No, that's a hard 12 rounds. And Floyd Mayweather, as a super featherweight, was a nasty bastard. So, how am I going to beat him? So yeah, it's funny how fate works, isn't it? I get a lucky break to win a world title, and I get an unlucky break to not, financially get. So that was the worst. I've dragged that on for an hour, but that was the worst time of my life. The question you asked 45 minutes ago, that was the worst time of my career and possibly my life. Because again, there was and all those things aside, the news agents, those wooden like advertising boards, and so there's a paper in South Wales called the South Wales Echo. Every evening it comes out, and it's well read. And it was world champion fails brain scan. Well, it's me or Joe Karzagi. So it's obviously me, isn't it? So and I had to put up with that, see things like that, and people talking to me like I had brain damage, and people saying to me, "Are you okay, Barry?" And yeah, I'm fine. And people say, "No, listen, it's best you don't know. You don't want to mess with your health." And I was going, "You don't understand, mate. You don't understand that." Like I didn't want to box if I was going to be ill. I didn't want to box if there was something wrong with me. I didn't want to box if there was a chance that I could get brain damage in the ring, or I could die in the ring. I didn't know there's a risk for us all. But if there's a marker there, or a sign, or a signal, or a warning that, listen, you're at more risk than anyone else, then I wouldn't have wanted to box. But there wasn't. There was nothing there. It was just a change in my scan. They didn't know what it was, and they panicked a little bit. And yeah, so unfortunately, I praised at Robert Smith, and then I slagged off the boxing board. But he wasn't Robert Smith at the time. It was what's his name? It wasn't his name. It's no one's fault. It's no one person's fault. They have to do what's best for the sport. But what was best for the sport wasn't best for me, unfortunately. So yeah, and
bad timing.
I should have sued them. Really, I'm glad I never. I mean, I could do with the money. I could do with the money now, surely. But I'm glad I never. I didn't want to be the guy to ruin. But I thought I would have ruined boxing for the sue them. I had a good case. My barrister said you should sue for. He didn't say defamation of character, but something like that. Emotional stress, loss of earnings, all that sort of. There was loads of things to sue for, but I just didn't want to. I just wanted a box. That's all I wanted. I got my license back. I was happy, but I should have got some money out of him, but I never. And here we go. I had the moral victory, whatever that means.
Ah, damn. Barry, I didn't honestly. That is so intriguing. The names that were in the division at that point as well that you've just rattled off there. That's crazy.
Yeah,
the level of competition.
But they weren't there when I won the title because they were all
exactly.
younger than me. So
yeah.
2 years in the sport. The demographic changes really quickly, and it did. Yeah, they were. You get in the ring with anyone you think you can win. That's I say boxers are the biggest liars. And you have to be, because we lie about weight, we lie about money, because we never get paid enough. We always lie, but we have to lie to yourself to believe. Because where we come from to where some of us end up, it's an unattainable journey. It is. It's a hidden path. How would you get from being from a council estate? By the way, my street has produced 2 world champions, me and Steve Robinson, from the same street.
What are the chances of that?
It's mad, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's mad, isn't it? I didn't know him at the time either. I knew Steve was boxing, but when we lived in the same street, I didn't know him. But he's a couple of years older than me, though he looks 10 years younger. Bless him. But yeah, so boxing is that sort of sport, isn't it? Because we're all working class, or not even that. And it's a sport that can change your life, and it has for so many. And it has for me. I didn't earn a fortune in the ring, but I was allowed to forge a career in what I'm doing now. So
Absolutely.
I've been lucky.
And that brings me on to the here and now. What do you think it is about the experiences you've had in the ring that now makes you good at being an analyst and a commentator? Because as sort of a fan of the sport, all I ever see for you is praise. And people I know, just like, they're not even like hardcore fans, they're sort of semi-casual, and but they know about you and they actually rate your commentary. So that's a massive compliment for you. How did you sort of understand that I'm good at this, and how did you get into it in the end?
I never knew. I got into it when Box Nation started, and I just did. I went down to do the box, because it's not too far. Box Nation Studios, where they used to be in Shepherd's Bush, is not too far from where I live now. It's like 35-minute drive. So I went down. A friend, I knew Steve Bunce from when I was boxing, but not double well. But a friend of mine knew him well, and he said, "I'll go on Steve's show." They were looking pretty much for boxers they didn't have to pay, and they pretty much had obscure fighters from the 90s, me and Mickey Cantwell, 2 fighters from the 90s, who a lot of people wouldn't know. And I just went on the show, on the Bunce Hour, and I just spoke about my career and that night and remembered everything about it. And the producer asked me back. And it's slowly snowballed from there. Because they had Enzo McAnally at the time, and they had Paul Smith doing the commentary. And because I lived so close, I think they asked me, because it was, they were a budget channel, let's not forget that, especially in the early days. So it was cheaper to get me to drive over 25, 30 minutes than it was to get Enzo on a train from Swansea or Paul Smith on a train from Liverpool and a hotel. I was just there and back, wasn't I? And they probably paid me less as well at the time. Yeah, and that was it. And I did a few of those, and they said I was doing okay, and I just snowballed from there. I don't know. So if people think I'm good, that's great, but it's all down to opinions, and I don't ever think I'm the best. I just try and say what I see. I try and be honest. I try not to be too biased. Sometimes you can be stylistically biased, I think. So if you like a certain style, you sometimes can forget to talk about the other person. But I think the secret is, though I don't know the secret really, is trying to be analytical, which you have to be, but without overcomplicating it. I think that's the secret, because you overcomplicate it and people got to think too much while they're watching. You want to explain something, so like you said, your friends who are not boxing, just casual fans, you want to be able to explain something so you can understand it, because you're a boxing nut, so you can go, yeah, that's right. And the person who's just an armchair fan can go, oh, okay, I'll look for that next. Oh yeah, no, I see it. So trying to get that balance between that is, I think that's the key. No, I think I do that sometimes. Sometimes I don't. I think that I've been told I do that. There you go. But that's not by design. That's just by luck, to be honest. I just say what I see. And I think boxing is not a complicated sport. We all overcomplicate it. Pundits and commentators are the worst, because it's to make us sound clever. We make up phrases to make us sound good. We do. But it's quite, boxing is very simple. And I say that about actually being able to box. I think the simpler you keep it, the better you are. I do. I think people were winning fights on jabs years ago, and I think that can happen again. People don't use the jab; they touch with it. The term "touch" is. I'm not a fan of that, by the way. Why waste a punch if you're going to touch with it? But it's a term. They don't touch. They're trying to just do something to line up a bigger shot. But it's the touch is it drives me mad. But yeah. So I say what I see. I think I say what I see. And some nights you're better than others, of course. Some nights you can get it great, and you have a good, and you've done well. Other nights you're not quite sure. Other nights you'll have a stinker, like we all do. But it also helps who you're working with as well. By the way, your main commentator is quite important to the role, and if he's too opinionated, then that can affect your role. If he doesn't know what he's talking about, that can also affect your role. Yeah, and if he's too much of a company man, that can be a problem as well. Because then if you're not a company man, you try to balance it out, then you look like you're anti the people you're working for, and that can do you out of a job. So that's a difficult thing. I would tell people to watch, though. People who watch and say about the commentary, about commentators being biased, and they're told. No one ever tells you to say anything. I've never been told to say anything ever by anybody. By the way, you might feel that you have to be obliged to hype up the home fighter, or the TV company you're working for, their promotional partners, boxer, because he's your guy. I understand that, and I've gone into trouble for not doing that in the past. But I've never been told by any promoter or TV executive to say a certain thing. So people who say that just never happens. But it's a great job. It's a pressure job sometimes, because some fights are difficult to talk about, and you want to get it right, and scoring a fight's always difficult for anybody, but especially when you're commentating, because you have to you're concentrating on your words and what you're saying, but also bear in mind you have to score the fight as well, which is a difficult thing to do on its own. But if you have other things involved, it makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
would you say about, you said about keep it simple for commentary? Would you say that is how that type of commentary, for example, is what helps the casual fans to become the smart fan? If they're bit by bit watching boxing like that, and simple steps like that are sort of adding to their knowledge, and sort of this is getting pointed out, that's getting pointed out, and then over duration of time, that's how they get into sport. No one becomes a boxing expert or not overnight. This is an investment of years. You have to watch boxing a fair amount to actually understand what's going on. Sometimes, as simple as it can be, to actually understand it all, you've got to sometimes sort of watch it more regularly. So do you think that it's important to have commentators like yourself who can keep it simple but give you the information you need, and sort of create that understanding for casual fans to become smart fans?
I think so, yeah. You have to make sure as well, and that's different. It's not my job; that's the commentator's job to keep it entertaining. That's the main comms job rather than the co-comms like I am. But ironically, co-comms is color commentator, but they put the color in. Really, we just put the technical stuff. But yeah, I do know. Like, you got to point things like foot. I'm mad for footwork, aren't I? So I'm always mentioning where the feet are is quite important, because then that helps you understand why someone has done something, why they can't get the shot on because the foot's in the wrong position, or they have to move the feet. I say quite often about when you back someone onto the ropes, about moving your feet around the body to get a different attack. And also it keeps you in a safe place. Like, I'm pivot mad.
They pivot. There you go.
And I pivot, man. I pivot. No, I do the podcast for boxing news. I say pivot and Joe Kazagi every time I'm on it. But
that's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're gonna say it again. It's but pivot's very important, and you haven't got to be a big act. You have to constantly move. It's minimal movement and an easy movement to make. You haven't got to use Lomachenko feet. I mean, you can do that, but it takes a lot of energy. And if you do if you just do it, it puts you in a position. There's no real thought behind it, so you can't keep that up. You just can't keep it up. Like, it'll tire you out. There's so much. He's done it from a young age, by the way, so his body's used to making those fast and aggressive movements, and he does it fluently and naturally as well. So for someone to learn that later on in your life, you've got to make more of an effort, and it means you got to have a secondary thought in your brain to do it, where he does it instinctively. So yeah. So I say all the time, well, you learn the fundamentals for a reason, because they're the best things to learn. They keep you in a safe place, and they get to the punch to get the target quicker. The hands, high elbows tucked, they keep you in a safe place for when you're not doing anything, and you master them. and you'll get further than doing all the Lomachenko stuff and all the rest of the stuff. Like sometimes you can't copy. Like I thought with Floyd Mayweather, I thought it was going to be a generation of people getting knocked out trying to copy him. You can't box like him. Like you can't box like Naz. I mean, you can, because the Ingle gym made a generation of before him and after him of fighters who box that way. But you've got to do it from a baby. They get them young. They don't get them late. They get them young, and they learn it and they learn it, and it becomes muscle memory and a natural movement. That those are natural. And boxing in general, that a lot of boxing movements are unnatural. Throwing a left hook shouldn't be a powerful shot. Shouldn't be a powerful shot. When you first go on the bag and first try, you throw on the left hook. There's nothing on your left hook. It's rubbish. But then it becomes pretty much your best punch in the end. And your most powerful punch in the end, usually for a lot of boxers, because you learn to turn from the hips. But I say that quite often about the turning from. There's another thing that's I say quite often about that, the twist in the hips and the shoulders, that turn of the core, I say now. And that's it. That movement from your core. I tell kids, if I ever go to a boxing gym, I tell kids to put their hands on their shoulders and turn from the hips. And I say that's every punch you can throw.
Is that to do with the momentum and the weight behind that?
It's body mechanics. So, and that movement there is arguably every movement in sport. Throwing a rugby ball, kicking a football, you got to do that movement to get your legs back. Hitting a tennis ball, hitting a golf ball with a golf club. All these movements they're quite, theoretically, if you can master that movement, you can pretty much do every sport. But not to a great level. You can pretty much do every single sport. That's why quite a lot of sportsmen who are, I'm shit at all other sports, by the way, except basketball. But most sportsmen who excel are quite good at most sports, decent at most sports. You find that, don't you? Because that movement they've learned to master, that they do that movement so instinctively and naturally. But that movement, the punch, it's a fluid movement, and that gives you the whip. It gives you you push off the back leg with that. You have to turn properly into the punch. So literally, when you turn, like I'm trying to show myself, when you should be turning, and your arm shouldn't be leaving until your shoulder squares up, and then that's the last bit to go. But the movement's there because all the bigger muscles in the back of your body. So pushing off your back leg and using that is engaging all those muscles in the back, and turning from the core keeps you relaxed. So you're not tensing up and swinging and doing that. You're going nice and smooth.
And you're probably not going to waste as much energy as well, isn't it? Because it's all following through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it's all smooth, natural movements, but that movement is boxing. That's boxing, pretty much. That movement there. You sort of explain that to people, boxers as well. But they all. No one ever told me that. I learned that watching and learning as I go on. No, I never got taught that as a kid. No one tells you that. People don't know it. They know it now. I mean, everyone knows. People know more about sports and body mechanics now than ever before. But I mean, they didn't know that. Throwing a right hand was put your shoulder into it, but that was that movement. They just didn't understand how to explain it. I think maybe some other gyms maybe did, but yeah. But I'm not a boxer. I talk about it, but I never trained a kid in my life. What do I know? I would say that. People have said to me, "Why wouldn't you train kids?" I said, "Well, why would I? I have no experience in it. I mean, I want to train a heavyweight who's on the verge of a world title shot because it's loads of money for nothing. That's what I want to do."
And one punch can change it all.
Well, let's not go into that because people are saying about Ngannou.
No, I'm not even going to bother with that one. But no disrespect intended. It's not really one that I think hardcores are too interested in. But
good luck to him anyway.
Making a lot of money.
It's a money grab for everyone. You can't begrudge him the money, can you? That's
if the money's there, why not?
Yeah.
On the sort of point of sort of technical stuff, last weekend, the way the fight ended with Wood and Warrington, can you just give me your sort of breakdown of how Leigh Wood managed to pull that off the way he did, and the sort of technical nuances between him sort of shifting between southpaw and orthodox, and how did that benefit him, or how did it sort of cause him more problems against Warrington?
Well, he's funny, Leigh Woods, because he doesn't hold a shot great, but he's one of these fighters who has an instinct to fire when he's at his most vulnerable. You can't teach that. to stay calm under pressure, to stay calm when you seem to be stunned and hurt, is a gift. So he changes southpaw, and what that allowed him then is because then his right foot's on the outside of the front foot of the front left foot of Josh Warrington. That allows him to throw that long left hand. No, there wasn't much on the long left hand. There wasn't a lot in it, but it's gone right through the centre of the guard because Warrington's hand's high, but there's usually a gap through the middle. And then once he does that, that just stops Warrington. It didn't hurt Warrington, it stopped him in his track. And then Leigh Woods, who's instinctively a better finisher. Leigh Woods is a big puncher, but he's not the big puncher that everyone makes out he is. I don't think he is. I think he can hit hard. But his strength to me is how clinical he is in the follow-up. So there were 7 punches in that combination. The first one's a long left hand, not much in it, but it stops him in his track. The second one's a right hook, I think, and that's right on the chin. Yeah. Right on the chin. No, that's the punch that stunned him. Maybe that might even drop Warrington, that punch. But after that punch, most people land with that shot. They feel that shot. They see Warrington dip, and then they go crazy. He doesn't, Leigh Woods. He automatically stays calm, almost like he takes a breath, but keeps the momentum and the speed in the shots. But he doesn't miss with the shot. And as Warrington's going down, and Andy Clark pointed this out to me, to be fair, I was saying how accurate he was with the follow through, and he's saying how accurate he was as Warrington's changing the height. But Warrington's moving down, and Lee's still staying with it. He almost like, once he hits you with a big shot, there's 5 shots there. So there's one shot, the second shot's a big right hand, and there's 5 other shots that don't miss the target, that are fast, but he doesn't rush them. To do that under pressure, when you're a mile behind, when you've been wobbled and hurt numerous times already in the fight, you're getting outboxed, outfought. That's the truth of it. You hit the guy with a good shot, you must know you need that shot. You need it, and you get it. Now, most fighters, most world-class fighters, would just go, bah, and go for it, commit to it. Empty the tank, whatever you want to call it. He's gone, he's going now, I got to get him. He doesn't. He gets him, but he slows it down to make sure he gets it right without losing any speed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you're saying.
He doesn't rush it at all. Like that's his superpower. That's his superpower. Not the one punch power that people say he got. Not that. His superpower is, once he hits you with a shot, you better run. You run or hit the floor and get up and once he hits you with a good shot, if you stand there, if he can stun you, you're guaranteed to get hit with a follow of 3 or 4 shots of the same weight, the same speed, and the accuracy. That's what he does so well. And you got to give Ben, and that's instinctive, but I think Ben Davison has given that calmness about his work, and that's what's taken him from British level to world level. I think. Listen, a trainer's only as good as his boxer. That's the truth. But a good trainer with the right fit is worth his weight in gold. He really is. And so for one fighter, he might not be worth 2 pence. For another fighter, he's not getting paid enough. And for Leigh Woods and Ben Davison, I think they're a great fit. That's exactly what he needs. A thoughtful, calm voice in the corner. Because you've got a puncher, you want to say, get out there and give it to him. But he keeps him calm because he knows his fight. He knows he's clinical with his finish. He knows he can slow it down in his brain to get the process to see the shots before he throws them without losing any speed. It's very difficult to do. Very, very difficult to do at any level. But at that level, in the pressure they're under, with that crowd and all the rest of it, that takes a special fighter. It really does. Now, you watch Leigh Woods, any boxer watches Leigh Woods, and he's beatable. That's the truth. I'm not slagging him off. He's a fantastic fighter, but he's beatable. You look at him, I look at him and go, I think I could beat him now. There's too many mistakes. He's too easy to do it. He's not that clever. He doesn't do it. Tell me one thing he does great. Because he's not flash. He does nothing outstanding except that. Except that once he's got you, you're done. There's no escape from him. And that's his strength. I think that's his special power. That.
Definitely, I think the way you've framed it there is pretty much bang on. It's the instinct and that composure in that situation where he can
Yeah.
just slow things down. In a way, he sees things in slow motion and he makes it look so smooth.
Well,
And that was
you get an adrenaline rush, and you got to somehow quell that somehow. You got to harness it. So I don't know how you do. I don't know. I've never a puncher, was I? So you got to, like, I've knocked a couple of people that was an amateur, but but I mean, I've dropped a couple of kids as a pro, but never. But I mean, like, as an amateur, you just bang them and then you just go and jump all over them, and you see that at the highest level as a pro. Once they've hurt them, big punches, they go for it, don't they? They go for it and they make loads of mistakes because they know they got you. It's just got to hit you anywhere now to get rid of you. But he doesn't do that, and he probably could still do that, but he doesn't. He slows it down in his brain. Bam, 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 bam. And every shot hits the target. And as you're falling, as Andy Clark pointed out to me, he's watching you as you move down. Again, he's slowing it down in his brain. He's slowing it down so he can see everything before he throws it. It's like he's put you on pause and then slow play. You know what I mean? It's just like, isn't it? And that's the difference. That's the difference between things. You see fighters they have that like that instinct, anticipation. Yeah, they can anticipate your moves. Some really great fighters like Terence Crawford and people like that. They anticipate. They almost, God, he threw that like he's thrown the shot before you've thrown it. You throw a shot, and there's a gap, and they counter you, but they're so instinctive with it. They get the anticipation. They know what you're going to do. They almost like they throw it before you've thrown the shot. How did you do that? You knew I was going to do that before I did it. It's because they've read your rhythm, but they've slowed it down. They've seen the little tell, and they've gone for it straight away. And that's almost like an instinctive ability that great athletes have. And Wood sort of has it. I'm not saying he's a great athlete. He's a good fighter. I'm not saying he's an all-time great, but he had and the pressure, the cauldron there. He was getting schooled. Let's be honest, getting totally outboxed, and he was getting hurt. And I was doing the commentary for the radio, and I was saying it looks like a matter of time before Warrington gets to Wood and stops him. That's what it looked like to everyone. I thought. So after the first 2 rounds, I thought Wood won the first 2 rounds, but he definitely won 1 out of the 2. But then after that, he won at the races ever. So it was a great win, and he's one of those fighters. Listen, he moves up to super featherweight now, and he got Joe Cordina, and Joe Cordina is a maverick of a fighter. Who found the power now as well. He's gone to the super featherweight. He's got a bit of power now that he never had at lightweight. So you make Joe Cordina the favourite. You'd have to. He's a big super featherweight, by the way, big, and he has sublime skills, and he can stand Leigh Woods on his head, and I think he will. But you gotta know if he switches off at like a millisecond, and Wood catches him. If he doesn't run away, hold or take a knee, you gotta know the hell's coming on him. He's gotta know that. No, you've got to see that. You can't switch off for a second. The guy who carries the power from round 1 to round 12. When he's back, if he's winning a fight, he still goes out and looks for the finish. If he's losing a fight, he can find that punch to come back from the jaws of defeat. And that takes that mindset of that. That's a dangerous fighter to come up against for anybody.
Wow. Before we wrap up, Barry, I spoke to. Do you know who Dan Canobio is for CompuBox?
I do. I met him once in Vegas recently. He thought I was Barry McGuigan.
Okay. I spoke to Dan Canobio last week, and we were talking about some bits on CompuBox. And we spoke about the fighter with the highest recorded combination punches in boxing. Do you want to take a guess to who that fighter is? There's a reason why I'm asking you this, because there's a particular name that you love to throw out there.
It would either be Roman Gonzalez, or it would be Bam Bam.
Who are you picking?
Gonzalez.
100%. I just said to him, CompuBox is there. How do you count how many punches Gonzalez throws in one go? And he stopped me. Then he goes, funny that you mentioned that. He goes, he is the record combination puncher in boxing for the most amount, 2 punches or more, basically.
Do you know why? He throws so many, never loads up. He throws with a rhythm. God, I love Gonzalez. I love him. I actually love him. but he never loads up. His work is so smooth, and he has that perfect turn. You don't see it so obvious because they've mastered it now, so it's almost like you don't even see it moving. But he turns from the hip and the core all the time. Never tenses it. Never pushes his punches. Never loads up. I mean, he can make his punches harder. Sorry, he can make his punches harder, but he couldn't throw as many. Brilliant. He's a joy to watch. Even at this age now, the longevity of him, as well as another one, like it's just unbelievable. No, it really is. I'd like to see him retire now because he's going to start getting beat by fighters who were never really good enough to beat him, and that's always sad to see. And it's sad to see when you see some of these heavyweights who are not very good earning more than he would have earned, and that makes me sad because he's great to watch. And if he was a middleweight, if he was a middleweight, he would be the Canelo about a day. He'd be the superstar. He'd be earning fortunes, and everyone would just love him. He's just brilliant to watch. He really is, and he's great for kids to watch and learn from because he's one of the guys who can slip punches going forward, which is such a difficult thing to do. The head movement's brilliant with him. He slips and coming forward, not like Duran, but Duran was one of the probably the fighter who did it the best. Slipping punches going forward. It's a gift. Like if you can master that, because then you're putting pressure on them, you're making them miss, and then you're in position to hit them in range, which gives you more power. So it's unbelievable. It's a nightmare to fight for someone like that, I would imagine.
And like you said, with him, we want to see him. We'd be happy to see him retire now. He's had a generational run. We even got a sort of second great run from him after 2017 when he got knocked out by Rungvisai. A lot of people thought that might be it. He came back 2 years later and he's gone and had some great wins then as well. And yes, he might have lost to Estrada twice, but we know that the second fight could have really been his. The third one was, some people felt that was an Estrada win, but the second fight, a lot of people felt that was his career best performance and he should have got it. For him to have come back from that knockout, when people are saying, "Oh, he's old, he's finished," to come back and still beat Kaliafai, and then Martinez, even though that was a sort of last minute replacement, he's come back and beat capable fighters. He's not just beat up bums or people over the hill.
Those it was 4 fighters running it that way. So it was him, Estrada, Quadras, and Rungvisai. Like all fighting each other. It's just unbelievable. Again, if they were bigger weights, right, they're all earning tens of millions. That's the truth. That's the truth. They're all in tens of millions. If they were bigger weights, because they were just absolutely all brilliant fights, all great fighters, all future Hall of Famers guaranteed. Gonzalez is the first ballot Hall of Famer. If he's not, so is Estrada actually. Rungvisai will get in. They're probably not the first ballot, but he'll get in. But yeah, just unbelievable. Just I'm a fan. I know I was a fan of small fellas because I'm small myself, but because some fights can be boring. I was boring to watch. You are what you are. Jabber moving's not always sexy, is it really? But I'd rather watch Gonzalez fight than any heavyweight I've ever seen. Put it that way. That's not even like a flippant statement. That's an actual factual statement from myself. I'd rather watch Gonzalez fight than any other heavyweight that has ever lived, including Muhammad Ali. I'm not saying he's better than Ali. I'm not saying he's better than those.
You just prefer watching him,
He's just beautiful to watch.
He's unreal. He is unreal.
Yeah, I mean, you get listen. Like I've been to big fights, so and I've seen Gonzalez on the cards at big fights, and the excitement's not there like it is with others. Going to a Fury fight or a Wilder fight is great. It's great atmosphere. It's fantastic. Eubank Jr. fight's fantastic. Joshua fight's great. They're all great fights. Canelo fights. I've done a load of Canelo fights in Vegas, and the atmosphere is a second to none. It's brilliant. But just to watch as a fan, as a boxing fan, which I am, Gonzalez all day, every day. Yeah,
unreal. Just 2 quick fire questions. Your current 3 best pound for pound, or just best fighters in the sport?
3.
Top 3.
Top 3. I'm so struggling off the top of my head. I find it hard with pound for pound, so I'm not really a fan of them. But Crawford,
yeah.
Crawford and Inouye, obviously the first two.
Yeah.
And the third one, I'm struggling with that. Usyk maybe. Maybe. Be for ages now. Trying to think.
Crawford and Inoue are pretty much a lock.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, clearly.
It's just that third spot. Is it Usyk? Is it Canelo? Is it someone else we're forgetting like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't put Canelo in the top three anymore, to be honest. Like, and him beating Charlo doesn't help because it was not an easy fight. It was an easy fight on paper in the end, but I mean, it was a testing fight potentially, but you can't go fight a smaller guy and get credit for that. That's the truth. It's one of those things. Can't. Yeah, I see Usyk then.
Usyk. Excellent. And the last question, Barry. Your professional career has obviously come to an end, and now you found a new path for yourself in the sport of boxing. Once your career as a pundit is all said and done, so you've done professional boxing and then you've finished as a pundit or an analyst, what would you like to be remembered for? What would you want people to remember Barry Jones for?
Oh, mate, I don't give a shit. I don't. It was like that when I boxed. I didn't like. I had no ring walk. I wouldn't wear a dressing gown and things like that. They used to say to me, "What's your ring walk music?" The TV people come in your room and say, "What's your ring walk music?" I go, "Oh, put something Welsh on." I didn't care. I was never really into all that stupidly. And now I don't want to be remembered. I'm not really guys who cares about that. Ironically, I love my job. I want to live in, feed my family. That's what I want to be, a guy who provides for his family. That's the first and foremost. Is all I care about. Ultimately. It is, like being fair. There you go. Being that he was always fair and honest. Be honest. There you go, honest. I'd like to remember this being honest, I guess. Yeah, that's all I can ask for. If you think I'm good, it's great. If you don't think I'm good, that's your opinion. I don't argue with that. I don't think I'm better than anyone else. People say I'm the best. Some people say I'm shit. Depends on who you're talking to on that day, innit? I don't take it. I can't take the praise to heart, and I see all the praise on Twitter, and I appreciate it, and I love it, and it makes me feel great about myself. And I can't. You'd lie if you didn't. If you didn't, it's great, but I don't take it to heart. If I take it to heart, I gotta take it to heart all the criticism I get, and then that's not great. That's not nice to see and hear. So yeah. So we all get a foot of ourselves at times, and I'm not a fan of that. Listen, we're all just doing a job with me. That's all.
Yeah.
And also, it's not about us. It's about the sport. Like,
yes,
I've had my. Like, I'm a commentator. Like the thing, the big issue I got with this generation, especially in media, is that we're becoming more important than the fighters. Not me personally, but we're bigger characters than the fighters. Every journalist or reporter or something got a gimmick. The fuck, like who cares? It's about the fighters. It's their career. You're reporting on them. I'm talking about them when I fight it. If you like what I'm saying, that's brilliant. And I want a job. And tell everyone, by the way. And if you have any influence, anyone watching this, or to any TV executive, I don't have a full-time job. I'm freelance. I need work. If someone puts me on a retainer or gives me a contract, I'll be over the moon. Like, people give me work, and I'm thankful for it. I never take it for granted. When the zone phone me up to work, I know it's fight by fight, show by show basis. I don't know if I'm doing the next one, and when they give me work, I'm thankful. But I also moan when I don't get it, because I think, why am I getting it? If I'm supposed to be the best, why am I getting all the work? I argue about that. So we all got a bit of an ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, human beings.
But I haven't got it. But ultimately, it's not about us. It's about the fighters. I don't know why we're becoming huge names. And social media's done that, because we're all. If you're interviewing somebody and you're in front of the camera if you're interviewing a boxer, and you're in camera view with that fighter, maybe that's how it works. I don't know, but you're trying to sell yourself. I understand. I do understand that, because it's like say with you, for instance, it's your business, so you've got to try and sell the channel with the fighters, but also get yourself. And I don't mean like this now, because you have to have you, otherwise it'd be weird. But I don't, and maybe that's the right way to do it. I don't know, but I just think, people watch a fight. You go and you look on Twitter sometimes, and they're talking about the commentators. The fuck? Who cares? First, turn it down if you don't like it. I don't listen to commentary. I do myself up the job, yeah. No, I mean, I listen to it, but it's not. I couldn't watch a fight.
It's not your key focus, exactly. Yeah.
It's not my key focus. I might disagree with Matt Macklin. I might disagree with Carl Frampton or Richie Woodall, but I respect their opinion because I know they know what they're talking about. Just on that particular notion, I might think I don't see it that way. But and quite often with certain ones, I never agree with them. That's the truth. But I don't think that that's their opinion, and it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the fight because they're saying something I don't think is true. I just don't take any notice of it. That's just one man's opinion. And if you're watching a fight and you need help and guidance about what's going on, then they might be steering you on the wrong path. But you don't know it's the wrong path because you don't know any different. So it's not hurting nobody, is it? Arguably. Yeah. Because if we think we know the sport and then someone else is commentating and saying stuff we don't agree with, we all go, fucking hell, what's he on about? Just don't worry about him then. He's not for you because you're a knowledgeable person. You know about the sport. Shouldn't be affecting you. Shouldn't be affecting your enjoyment in the fight. I can go on about he drives me mad, though he's a good fighter and he knows what he's talking about, obviously, is Sergio Mora. He always talks, he says Mexican style and body shots every second round. Like he says it's like me saying Pivot and Joe Calzaghe. He says it more often than I say that. But he obviously knows what he's a better fighter than I was and been at a higher level than I have been at too. And but when he says that, it drives me mad. But don't discourage me. It doesn't make me want to turn the fight off. Or if it's a good fight, it's a good fight. I'll note what he said and go, oh, here he goes, bloody body shots again, Mexican style. All right, but how many times are you going to say it?
Yeah.
But that's me being an asshole, isn't it? Really, and I didn't mean to point him out. I'm not digging him out.
Just an example. There's nothing wrong with that.
Just an example. Yeah.
Absolutely. No malice.
There's no malice. There's no malice. I don't even know him, and I'm not fighting him. He's bigger than me. But it's just that's just an example. But it doesn't mean it's like, oh, I can't listen to the fucking fight. I can't watch the fight because he's saying it. Don't bother me. No, somebody I talk too fast, or I mumble, or my accent's fucking shit. Whatever it may be. Some people can't listen to me because I got a Welsh accent or a Cardiff accent, or I see things different to them. You just fucking, I'm fair enough. It's when you got to be writing. You haven't got to write letters to my boss to get me sacked, though.
Yeah.
I haven't got a boss. I'm self-employed, so fuck him. But but it's true, it? But also, if you're slagging other commentators off, I'm happy. Carry on because it helps me get work.
Absolutely. The benefits of being freelance as well. There you go, Barry. Thank you so much for your time, mate. I really appreciate it. We spoke for so long. Really appreciate that. Appreciate your little gems of wisdom as well. Being a fighter, you see things differently to the way a fan would ever see it. So hopefully the people that do watch this will get some insights as well. And that's why I wanted to speak to you, because I knew you'd be able to give us little technical breakdowns. Really appreciate that, Barry. And hopefully sometime soon we'll get you on again and delve a bit deeper into the fights towards the back end of the year. We've got a good little run coming up, so hopefully we can speak about that as well.
This is a great time for boxing. We all moan and groan about stuff, but and the heavyweight division, that's the way it all stems from. But take the heavyweight division away, though not now because Usyk and Fury are supposedly fighting. But let's put a pause at that a minute because we haven't got a date and a venue yet. But Spencer's boxed Crawford, Katie Taylor's boxing, boxing Chantel Cameron again. You know what I mean? We've been having Sonny Edwards is boxing Bam Rodriguez. I'm doing all I can to get out the Phoenix for that. That's the truth. That's a great fight. I mean, that's not an armchair fans fight. I understand that, but for a boxing purist, and I think it'd be a good entertaining fight to watch. I don't think you have to be a boxing purist to enjoy it. Then it'd be a really good fight because Bam's going to put it all over him, and Sonny's going to have to be at his very best. But Sonny at his very best is an absolute nightmare for anyone. That's just a fact. So it's a brilliant clash of styles. I can't say it doesn't entertain. And Sonny's not this runner people think he is, by the way. He throws punches. He moves and throws. So, he's not going to be running and dancing and looking to and skipping around the ring trying to hide. It's going to be great. So, yeah, we have Haney. I won't shut up. We've got another hour now. Haney versus Progress.
Yeah. Great run.
What a fight that is. There's a fucking wicked fight. No,
Benavidez versus Andrade was announced yesterday. That might be a little sleeper.
That's a good fight, though. I mean, Andrade fights are usually not very good, but Benavidez will force you to fight whoever you are.
He'll bring something out of him. He's either going to make him run away or he's going to bring it out of him. So,
and Andrade's always dangerous early, as we've seen time and time again. So, early, he can hurt you in early rounds, and Benavidez can make mistakes. So, though he hasn't shown any vulnerability in the chin, really. So, this year has been, if we get Usyk and Fury at the end of the year, like, I can't really name all the fights at the top of my head right now, but this has been one of our best years.
Definitely.
And honestly, yeah. And by the way, there's fights every weekend.
Yeah. The schedule's been full. Yeah.
Every weekend there's fights, and like every other weekend there's a big fight. Even domestically, Boatsy and the other fella.
Aziz.
Aziz, I know it's Aziz, I'm joking. Look at that, and that's not just a good fight, it's a great story. Aziz has literally come from nowhere and worked his way up. And now he's on the verge of being a world title contender. From a kid who just took up the sport, with no aspiration to being anything. I know he's boxing an Olympian who literally was earmarked as being a guaranteed shoo-in to be a world champion in Boatsy. And Boatsy starts a favourite, but not a big favourite. And he should have enough to beat Aziz, but you wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't get it. No, Aziz has no fear. Because there's no anticipation, there's no expectation, on Aziz doing anything. So he goes with every fight free. Like, what a way to, every fight's free to do what he wants. Just no one expects me to do anything. So I'm just going to go out and just be myself and try my hardest. That's all that matters.
But isn't that's the essence of boxing, isn't it?
Yeah. If you can take away, if you can see, they say all the fights is so much mental, and it is. You've got to be physically right and ready and with the right weight and get all those things got to be right. But the mental part, it's not about being tough sometimes. It's about coping with situations. You see fighters who have been world champions and they're strutting their stuff and they're brilliant. And they box Canelo in Vegas and they walk out. It's a short ring walk in Vegas. Their ring walks in America are shit compared to the UK, by the way. Like they're 4 steps in the ring. And then they got to start playing the song within the changing room, haven't they, to get them to stop the song. And then, except for Crawford's was brilliant against Spain. Oh, it was fantastic, wasn't it? But anyway, but Canelo fight, once they walk out into the arena, you can see the fear. Fucking hell, what's this? They realise they're up against, they're boxing a monster of a star of a man. That's the difference. You step up in occasions and levels, and that can, you think you box at one level and you're great. You step up at another level and you go, fucking hell, I'm not so good now. And mentally you lose it. There you go. Anyway, you will let me go, and I've kept you here. So
Barry, I would speak to you for 3 or 4 hours if I could, but obviously we both got things to do. That's absolutely fine. But I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Can you just remind everyone where they can find you on Instagram and Twitter and social media in general?
Oh yeah, I'm fucking good thing. I Barry Jones 1927 on Instagram. 1927 is because Cardiff City won the FA Cup that year. Not my age, not the year I was born. And I'm Barry Jones Box, I think, on Twitter.
Yeah, correct. Wicked. Barry, thank you once again for your time, and hopefully again, maybe back into the early next year. I'd love to have you on again, just have a little review.
Anytime, mate. Anytime. Don't worry about it.